Cally, good morning. Thank you so much for coming on my podcast today.
Thank you for having me. I've already met your gorgeous dog. I feel completely super served and blessed to be here. I'm very happy.
Oh, well, so am I. Thank you. Do you mind just first, before we start, just telling everybody a bit about your background and what you've done so far? Because you've done a lot.
Well, I'm talking to someone here, I think, who's done a lot as well. So we've, between us, done everything, I think, haven't we?
We've nailed it.
We've absolutely nailed everything. So, yeah, I mean, the potted history is that I worked for many years in television as a TV executive. So I had a sort of a business person's kind of career. And then due to a sort of unexpected conversation in my late 40s, I ended up doing a full pivot and changing from being sort of in boardrooms to treading the boards. So I went from working behind the cameras to being, in front of cameras and on screen, and became a stand-up and broadcaster and, writer. So yes, I did a midlife career pivot just when my hormones were making everything change. I was like, well, why not throw some more change into the mix?
How did that happen? What happened?
So, well, it's a lovely showbizy anecdote, but actually I will explain why the heart of the anecdote doesn't really matter whether it was a showbizy one or not. And it was Joan Rivers who told me I should get into stand-up, pick up that name. And I used to host industry events around the world as the sort of business lead for what we were doing. And we would fly in whichever A-listers were fronting the shows that we were getting people to invest in. So we would host these events for drunken, jaded TV executives around the world, and whoever was fronting the show would be there, and I would do a bit at the top on a microphone, and then we'd bring out the person they really wanted to see. And I worked with Joan Rivers a few times over those years when she was involved in the shows we were producing. And she had a conversation with me. We had dinner together not long before she died. And it was Joan Rivers who said, you should think about stand-up. What you've been doing is stand-up. And I think you should give it a go. And at the time I was 45 and I was a single mum of 2 kids. One of my kids has special needs. My daytime job was in a boardroom, and I just said, it's too late for that. That ship sailed. And she looked at me and she said, I'm 81. Wow. You're in the thick of it. Wow. And it was her saying that, and then very unexpectedly dying 2 weeks later, that propelled me to get to do my first ever stand-up gig. And it's really lovely that that's a story about Joan Rivers. But actually, I think the bit that's completely relatable and transferable is probably we've all had those conversations. It takes somebody, an 81-year-old woman, looking at a 45-year-old woman, saying, you're in the thick of it, you're young, get on with it. Already at 56, I look back at 45 and think, yeah, absolutely. I'm fully aware at 56, I'll look back at this at some point and go, God, 56, you were so young. We're the youngest we're ever going to be. So actually the real relevant part of that story is about older female role models, I think, and inspiration and aspiration. So yeah, that's how I got into it all.
And so what did you do at that point? So she'd said those words to you.
Yes.
What happened
Well,
next?
So obviously then you go and you're a terrible stand-up for a while. So you go and do your first gig, which for most of us is open mic. Well, it is open mic comedy in a, spit and sawdust type pub, usually watched by mainly friends or other open mic comedians. And you just have to be rubbish at it for quite a number of gigs.
That must be terrifying.
So hundreds of, well, not as terrifying as being in the medical profession where lives are at risk, but yes, on a little pathetic level, terrifying. And so there's no real shortcut to getting to be okay at stand-up. I mean, I was all right at the stagecraft of it because I'd been presenting in a corporate environment for a long time. So I wasn't daunted by having a room looking at me and holding a microphone and being polished. But that's actually almost a disadvantage as a comic. You sort of just need to be a bit more rough around the edges and get people in. So I had to sort of unlearn corporate gloss and learn to just properly be vulnerable and take risks on stage. Nobody wants the polished stuff, and you can't polish it till you do it. There's no way to come up with stuff that's bulletproof. It just doesn't work. You just have to keep trying it and honing it. So it's a real masterclass in failure and falling down and then standing up. It really is.
Wow. And did you just never look back?
Well, I did it as a side hustle for a while. So what you obviously can't do when you've got, I was a sort of sole breadwinner, single mum at that point, and well, still am. So earning money wasn't a luxury item. Like, it was down to me to keep the household running. So I couldn't just go, oh, do you know what? I'm going to go and join the circus. And so I had to do both for a while. So I had my comedy as a side hustle outside of the boardroom for some years.
Right.
My birth name is Caroline, not Cally, but Cally's always been my nickname and what people who know me or love me call me. So Caroline was my corporate name, Cally Beaton. So I was Cally Beaton on the circuit, sort of just to have a bit of a different name, also so I wasn't as Googleable for people at work. And then the two worlds overlapped when I got to the final of the Gotham Comedy New Act competition in New York quite early on in doing comedy. And no one at the office knew that's what I was doing, and that's where the board sat. So that's where the senior big shots all sat. And I'd just been over there the week before for a board meeting, entered in the evening, got through to the final of the competition, and they said, oh, can you come back next week for the final? So I was like, oh, blimey. So I went back out on air miles because I didn't need to be there, and I stayed in a mate's house and went to the office in the daytime, so I didn't have to take it as holiday. And the chairman of Viacom was sort of down the hall, and he walked in and he went, and he'd basically taken a picture on his phone of a massive poster of me in Times Square with my face as one of the finalists. And he went, are you Cally Beaton? And I was like, yeah. And he said, are you doing this tonight? I went, yeah. He said, hold on. And he went away for half an hour. And I was like, oh, God, what's happening? And then he called me into his office. He said 2 questions. He said, one, he said, are you going to stay here for another 18 months? Because that was the budget revenue cycle. And he obviously needed me to keep doing that. And I said, yeah, I will. And he said, and can I come with my family tonight? And I said, you can. So that was when the cat was out of the bag. And then I did another couple of years where people knew I was doing it, but it was still on the side. And then I just took the leap just before the pandemic shut down every live venue in the world. So I took the leap at a terrible time, but I've never looked back. Gosh. You probably see less of this age group in your practice, but my core sort of audience are probably very similar age to your core, clients and patients. And what I've noticed in my shows now, there are quite often women in their 60s there, which in a normal stand-up club is less common. Normally it's young. Yeah, so suddenly I'm doing my own shows and I get a cohort of women. And I just am loving talking to women in their 60s who are so full of vibrancy and hope. And it feels to me that the curve seems to go 40s really hard, 50s get a bit easier, 60s get better yet. And I just feel like screaming that from the rooftops, because when I'm hearing that in shows, that's such an optimistic message for women going through the hard yards.
Definitely. I mean, that our average age is probably 49, 50. It's that peak of hormonal chaos that's for so many women. And then, by the time you get to your kind of mid-50s, it's all settled down. It's the kind of perimenopause turbulence that's the really hard time.
I'm so glad you said that, because I definitely that the perimenopause, I have so many the wheels came off the bus for me, which I know we'll talk about, but I have so many friends in their 40s, sometimes early 40s, who are in real hormonal disarray. And they kind of some of them get almost offended if I say it could be, hormones. But I feel like we're so good at talking about the menopause. But I just feel perimenopause is the bit that is the bit for so many women. And I don't think that's being recognised nearly enough still.
I think it is. That's the point to emphasise, isn't it? It's like, it's not, you're right, it isn't menopause. Menopause is not the big deal. It's the perimenopause.
I'm so glad you of all people have said that, because sometimes I think, am I going mad that I think that? No.
But if you think it, then I will see it as acceptable.
No, absolutely. Those are the patients that end up with us. They're not the ones that have not had a period for 5 years. They're the ones that are deep in, they're still having periods, they're still, and it's like, I don't even know whether I'm perimenopausal. How can I know that I'm perimenopausal? It's but they're the ones that really struggle. Tell us a bit about what happened to you, because you've got it's an extreme experience. I think
we've gone from levity to tragedy in one sweep, because not tragedy, because so many good things came out of it. So yes, I went through perimenopause 10 plus years ago, when it was even less talked about and thought about than it is now, and I would, as we've just said, say still very much not enough on people's radars. And I ended up basically having a complete
burnout, breakdown, collapse. So by then I was doing my stand-up, had this massive job. My 2 kids were doing their GCSEs and their A-levels respectively. I probably was starting to get quite upset at the thought of empty nest. So there's a lot going on. And I'd been working at full throttle for, even at board level by then for the best part of 2 decades. I was very young when I had my first board level job. So I'd had a pretty relentless, time of it. Me and millions of other women, by the way, just normal, isn't it? We're all so busy at that time in life and got it coming from all angles. So I, like so many others, was in that position. And my son, we'd had lots of stuff going on with my son and other diagnoses, and it'd been quite a tricky time. And I just suddenly stopped. I just suddenly started crying. I'd come off stage after giving ironically, a speech at a forum to empower women. So 5,000 women, and I'm there, the empowering speaker. And I got off stage and I couldn't stop crying. And this was it was a morning speech, could not stop crying. Yeah, and went to see a friend at work who wasn't even that close a friend, but he I don't know what drew me to say, we have a coffee? And it turned out he'd had a breakdown about a year earlier, and he just sort of saw it for what it was. And he said, "You're not well, I need to get you some help." And I really wasn't well. And he got me in front of a doctor that same day, because who he knew from when he'd been so unwell. And I had private healthcare at the time. And I'm very aware, telling this story, that that's quite a relevant thing to say, because I got incredible psychiatric care, which 10 years ago wouldn't have been possible really on the NHS, certainly wouldn't be now. So I'm really checking my privilege as I tell this story, because it saved me, that care that is very sadly not available to most people. And I had 6 weeks of really intensive psychiatric treatment, a proper sort of burnout breakdown. I didn't tell the kids that I was a day patient. I wasn't sectioned. I was just having day patient treatment, but intensive, every day, all day treatment, and mainly group therapy, but also psychiatry, and didn't tell the kids that was what was happening. So I'd leave in the morning. They thought I was going to work. I'd come back at night. I'd help them with their revision, go back in the next day. And I was diagnosed with bipolar disorder. No one mentioned perimenopause at any point. Nobody. And I saw lots of doctors. Given a bipolar diagnosis, 47.
Right.
Bipolar diagnosis.
And you'd never had any psychiatric history?
No psychiatric history. I'd never, to my knowledge, suffered from depression or anxiety. And I was so depressed at that point. I mean, teetering on the edge depressed, as anyone who's experienced that will know, way, way beyond sort of sad, but properly hopeless. And I was given medication, and quite a heavy duty medication for bipolar.
What were you
Lamotrigine, which at the time was a trial drug for bipolar. At the time, it was being used mainly for epilepsy. So they had tried me on lots of different SSRIs, and nothing had much sort of worked really. So I was put onto Lamotrigine, and at the time I was on a couple of other things as well as the Lamotrigine. And after 6 weeks, off I went with my bag full of bipolar medication, misdiagnosis, thinking everything's going to be fine. And
did you feel better at that point?
Well, I did, but not so better that I didn't have another mini collapse about 6 months later. So I went back to normal with my bipolar medication, still nothing being addressed about my hormones. And then had another kind of mini version of it about 6 months later. And that was the point at which I started to get some help with my hormones. And again, it was just a family GP who luckily was on the case. Complete luck in a really busy London practice. And I know GPs are sometimes the last to be able to help. Sometimes they do help. And then we started to unpick it a bit. And I then realised that what that collapse was about was perimenopause, I would say, in first position, and then looming empty nest and burnout in second and third positions. So, but it took me a long time to get off the statistics around how many women are getting diagnosed with bipolar disorder are pretty alarming, as you'll know better than most. And it took me a long time to get off the bipolar medication because I was terrified. And people kept saying to me, including my therapist, I don't think bipolar is the right diagnosis for you. So it was being questioned not least by me. But it took me a long time to settle onto my HRT, think maybe I'm not bipolar, maybe I don't need this medication. And, now all my medication is bioidentical HRT. That's the medication I'm on. That's it. Nothing for any psychiatric disorders. So yeah, I guess the headline of that very long anecdote is to say that yes, my perimenopause was misdiagnosed as bipolar disorder.
And I think it's less common now, but certainly, a decade ago, I don't think it's not that uncommon. I used to work in psychiatry, and we used to have inpatients whose experiences sound very similar to yours. So they go through their entire lives with no psychiatric history, and then all of a sudden they get to 46, 47, 48, 49, 50 and present with really severe psychiatric symptoms and end up on hardcore psychiatric medications, which are they're necessary if you are psychiatrically unwell, but not the right first line treatment if it's hormonal, and ending up with ECT, ending up just spending months and months as inpatients, and they're never really going back to normal.
Yeah,
their lives are just...
It's frightening to hear that. It doesn't surprise me, and because I think there's also the thing, isn't there, that people can mask. I was told that some of the reasons that bipolar diagnoses get more common for women during perimenopause and menopause is that people who maybe do have bipolar disorder have managed to mask it successfully, and then the hormones strip the mask away. So there's that element where it might be helpful for them to know that is what's going on.
Yeah.
But then there's the whole misdiagnosis thing as well. So it's... But I hear, I'm sure, you hear about it loads as well, but people when they go to the doctor to get HRT and get offered SSRIs, rather than looking at their hormones, they'll be told, oh, you're depressed. Here's some antidepressants.
Definitely. And like you say, there is overlap. And I think female hormones buff us so much throughout your life, like ADHD, other psychiatric conditions. And then when those hormones are either in turbulence or you're stripped of them, other things kind of are unmasked. But it's just so important to think, especially in that age group, like, could hormones be the one and only? Because it's much easier to treat with hormones than it is with psychiatric medication.
Yeah,
the side effects from those.
Well, lamotrigine, I don't know if it's still the case, but at the time you used to have a liver test every 6 months because of the impact lamotrigine could have on your liver. And the thought that I was churning something into my body, my healthy body that I look after, that might be having an impact on my liver or other kind of crucial organs in my body, it's kind of frightening. And also that the prognosis was, well, you'll always need this because you've got bipolar disorder, it's not going to go away. So lifelong prescription for lamotrigine. I can't tell you how happy I was when I stopped taking it and weaned myself off it, which actually wasn't very hard. But again, I think it's because I was on the wrong medication. So probably the reason I could come off it was because I wasn't meant to be on it. But I was so happy when I took in my remaining boxes of it to the pharmacist and handed them in and sort of said, here's my unused supply. But also thinking, I don't have to go to the pharmacist for that anymore. Like, I don't have this bag of medication. I'm just on HRT now. It felt so good, I have to say.
Yeah, it's that kind of there's an extra burden, isn't there?
Yeah,
there is a burden with using HRT, but the hassle factor that are they going to have it in stock? Am I going to be taken off it? All of those kind of things. But being on medication that you can easily do without is just we don't ever want to have people on things that they shouldn't be on.
Also, I'm really aware my dad's going through lots of health things at the moment, and he's a very hale and hearty 81-year-old, but has unfortunately got a couple of things going on that are quite serious. But one of the things they've kept saying to him when they're assessing him, they ask what medication he's on. He's on none. And they keep saying it's remarkable to have an age. And I've just been looking at him and thinking, gosh, he's obviously 30 years or 20 odd years ahead of me age-wise. But I just think, it's a real reminder that let's take the things we need, but there's no need to be loading our systems down with things we don't. So it was, I'm so glad not to be on anything that wouldn't be necessary.
Polypharmacy is one of our kind of health crises, because as a doctor, it's very easy to start medication, but it's very hard to take somebody off it.
Once they're on
and
it.
especially like if you're seeing somebody that that comes to you as a doctor already on numerous medications, it almost feels like you're insulting another doctor by taking them off it. And so patients end up collecting more and more things that they are taking, and nobody quite ever has the courage to say, well, you don't need that and you don't need that and you don't need that.
So they just end up with their bag of medication. Polypharmacy, like polyamory, but not as much fun.
Not as
no, definitely not as fun. Yeah, I hadn't thought of that.
That's what happens. And there are clinics, there are kind of polypharmacy clinics where people go to kind of to stop all of the medications that they're on. There's kind of specialist places.
Oh, is that right?
To have
Gosh, every day's a school day. I didn't know about any of this. Yeah.
Medication.
So I polypharmacied all by myself.
You did?
Yeah, good for me. Didn't need the clinic.
You did.
And now I don't need to carry a bag when I go to the pharmacy. Just need I do actually. Wow. My HRT patches are so massive. A suitcase for them.
And you wanted to talk about your HRT patches.
Oh my God. If there's one thing that will get my lovely community of followers on social media into a froth with me, it is the subject of HRT. So yeah, I've been on these. I'm Estradot's the one I was, that's on my prescription, a nice little gentle, small, easily adhesive Estradot. Not being sponsored by Estradot, but just to say. And then I'm getting these other ones because Estradot, I've not had Estradot in years, and the ones I get are these massive, crinkly, sticky. I said to I don't even bother asking if I can have the right ones. I've just given up. But the other day when I picked it up and I said, can I just ask, might I ever get Estradot again? And they said, no, and I said, it's just really, these give me a rash. They leave I'm getting really sore. I've got, great big black marks over my bottom. And they were like, no, everyone says that, And I said, what do we do then? They said, just keep taking them. I was like, oh. So yeah, that's the crinkly crisp packet, HRT patches.
That's unfortunately the state of play in this country. And it has been for 5 years probably.
And why is that then? Because Estradot exists, because in Madrid, where my daughter lives, you just walk in and buy it.
Yeah.
Which I must start doing when I visit her. I keep forgetting to do that.
Not that I would ever advocate going into buying things over the counter, but you can get them over the counter.
You can get Estradot literally along with your paracetamol over there.
I don't think anybody really knows the exact reason why it's so hard to get them here. I mean, they come in, we can get them, but it's very patchy. And
that's the right adjective.
Yes, patches are very patchy.
Very patchy.
Part of it depends on how hard a pharmacy will try to locate them, whether they have, a big population base that requires them. But I think it was worse in COVID. It was worse with Brexit. And part of it is how the UK buys and what we're prepared to pay.
Yes, exactly. But that bit's difficult. And also I get them on a monthly prescription. So drives me nuts. And again, maybe I just need to push harder, because I know people who get them on 3 months, 6 months. So would it be reasonable for me to say I want a 3-month prescription or a...
Yeah, I think especially so when you prescribe, there is a prescription fee for non-HRT. Well, there is a prescription fee per drug, and whether you give 1 month, 2 months, or 3 months supply, the fee is the same. And so a lot of doctors will only prescribe 1 month of one drug, because that's how the prescriptions are paid for in the NHS.
Right, so that's the economics of it.
That's a better way of putting it. Yeah, that's the economics of it. But it's not quite the same for HRT, because if you've got a prescription certificate, then you're not paying.
Exactly. So I'm not paying anyway.
No. Yeah. So it's actually cheaper for the NHS to give you 3 months in one go,
right?
Because unless you keep changing, and then you're not finishing the medication.
No, I'm finishing it, gratefully finishing it.
So it would actually be cheaper for them to give you 3 months in one go, because it doesn't then require the admin work for a receptionist to pass the prescription request to the doctor, or the doctor to then do a prescription every month. So you could.
Well, I'm going to ask if the producers here could clip that up, and I'm just going to just play it for my GP and say, I've got something to show you, and just watch their response. So,
but they may just have a policy.
Yeah, they may well.
They may have
but
a policy.
I'm going to try and upturn their policy. Anyway, well, I'm going to go back and lobby again, because it's just I just spend my whole time in the pharmacy.
There's got to be a better way. And I think it will, like with the kind of menopause movement, like I never in a million years, 5 years ago, did I think that there would be a prescription certificate that would mean that women got their HRT for practically for free.
Yeah, I know. That's progress.
It really is. And so I think kind of moving forward, things will improve, but I don't know how long that will take.
Well, I'm 56. I've only got so long left, so we need to get a wiggle on.
Hopefully
30 years.
Yeah, you've got at least 30 years. Yeah. 50 years.
50 years. Amazing.
If you're enjoying this conversation so far, please do press the follow button on whatever platform you're listening on. Please do share it with a friend who you think would benefit too. What was your experience of perimenopause in terms of the symptoms that you experienced, and how did it all get better?
I think the crashing sort of low mood was the most dramatic one, which I've talked about, and that was depression then, so proper off the edge of a cliff depression. And now my mood stuff is anxiety laced. So I've never seen myself as an anxious person, and I am riddled with anxiety now, and particularly sleep anxiety, or anxiety that wakes me up from sleep. My symptoms at the time, before it all got sort of a bit more settled with HRT, were, literally the hot flushes. So I would literally just, the classic thing, just suddenly start sweating and going red and like full on go through clothes. Night sweats, my night sweats were so bad that I would, again, which I know I'm not unique in this, that I would need to change not just my pajamas or t-shirt, but the whole linen, sometimes 2-3 times a night, like just dripping through stuff. Tried every, those chilled pillows. I tried everything for that. So brain fog is, I forgot that one. Brain fog, I'd say, is one of the ones that I still have. Tummy fat. My body shape was always more apple than pear, but my God, it's gone more apple than it used to be. And I still have, so the residual ones are tummy, and anxiety and brain fog. Those are the three I would say that they're
still there.
Yes, the tummy is still there. The brain fog is definitely still there. Maybe not as badly as it was, but I definitely have points where I thought, is this dementia? Like it felt like literally, it was like trying to find something in a cupboard. It was like, and being able to see the shape in the cupboard where the thing used to be. That was what it was like, trying to find words for me. I'd be like,
how do you work with that when you're on stage?
Well, on stages, I guess, if we're looking at, you'll understand more why this would be, but I guess endocrinologically, I guess maybe the adrenaline that you've got on stage is countering something. You're quite sharp on stage. So I can be feeling really fuzzy and having a really bad day and barely able to string a sentence together to the broadband provider when I'm trying to remember my account number, and then get on stage and give a keynote speech to a few thousand people for an hour. And I can do it, and it's almost like a different bit of me kicks in. I don't know what it is. So I can be quite incoherent, but somehow manage to do the bits on stage. I wish off stage was as easy as on stage. If you've got a prescription for that, for the other 23 hours, that'd be good. So yeah, and the thing I'm most struggling with, I would say at the moment, is I would say now for nearly a year, I have not slept properly, and I was always such a good sleeper, and I cannot sleep. Wake up racked with anxiety, like someone's attacking me at like 3 or 4 or 5 in the morning.
With that kind of adrenaline surge,
like properly, like I feel, I feel like I'm fizzing. That's probably the best verb for it. I feel like I'm literally fizzing with anxiety, and it's like bang, I wake up like someone's done something to me, and it's really and then I do every type of mindfulness, breathing, take magnesium, all of it. But yeah, my sleep is quite disrupted quite often, which and lots of my friends my age say, you just need to get to bed really early at this age in life because you will wake up at 5 or 6. So just get to bed at 10. I'm like, yeah, I'm quite often not going on stage till 10:30. So my bedtime inevitably is very often after midnight. I'm very lucky if I can get to bed before midnight. So what should I do? Go and have a cold bath and retire?
So things like alcohol and coffee.
I don't drink, so I don't drink. And coffee, I have one coffee, but in the morning, that's it. So I'm not a caffeine person.
Because that can cause it. And what HRT regime are you on?
So I have the mirena coil. So I've got the progesterone via the mirena, but I guess it's been in a while now. I guess that becomes a bit minimal at a certain point, or maybe not.
How long has it been in for?
Less than 5 years, but still probably heading towards although I think they're now saying it can be 7 years, mirena.
Not for endometrial protection. You still need that for 5. You still need that for 5 years.
And apparently that'll be hard to get replaced because it's not for contraception now. Apparently I'll find it hard to find someone who will do that hard for me.
Yeah, because
any tips, backstreet clinics, you can slip me a garden. Yeah, exactly. Can we do it now?
So it depends on your local area, because a lot of places that fit mirenas or coils are funded by the kind of the contraceptive services
and the sexual health clinics.
So that's where they get their money from. And so if you are using your mirena for HRT, it doesn't count, and they don't then want to use their budget.
Fair enough.
But a lot of GP practices will fit them.
Okay.
So it depends.
So I just need to ask.
Yeah.
And so, because I have that, I have the mirena and I have the patches, and I also have testosterone gel. Is there an alternative to the mirena coil? Is the mirena still the best way to get the progesterone, or would there be another way to do it as effectively?
Well, the mirena secretes a progestogen locally, so it keeps your endometrium, so the lining of your womb, thin, which is important when you're giving extra estrogen. But some women find that using progesterone, so we've got a really lovely one called Utrogestan, which is a micronized body identical progesterone. They find that that's calming.
Ah, okay.
And I wonder
this down afterwards.
I wonder whether you using that just one a night you might find some benefit.
So that would address the progesterone and the potential anxiety stuff. Oh, that's good.
Maybe.
Well, I'm very happy to have made the journey here just for that. Thank you.
You don't need to have your mirena out in order to try it.
Oh, brilliant. But I do need to find someone who'll prescribe it for me.
Yeah, but your GP should be able to prescribe that for you.
Okay, I will try. Yes, my GP's not very pro HRT. I get asked, because that was another question I had, was I get asked in every 6 to 12 months to have to sort of justify still being on it. And they're always trying to tell me I've been on it too long and I need to come off it.
Why do they want you to come off it?
Because they think it's being on it. You shouldn't be on it long term, I guess. I don't know if it's the cancer risks or the other things that you do and don't hear are a thing.
Right.
But I definitely, I end up feeling like I'm negotiating for my HRT regularly, and that stops me sleeping too.
How old are you?
56.
Right.
I'd like to be on it until, if I make it to 96, just to be clear.
Yeah, I mean it's your choice. We don't have data for women on the type of HRT that you're on for decades and decades. We don't know that it's safe for you to be on this for 50 years because we haven't got anybody on it for 50 years. But we do know that there are huge benefits to being on it. I mean, you feel well, you came off your psychiatric medication, and there's the bone protection, cardiovascular protection, and the fact that you can then get on with your life, which are all massive,
quite
benefits.
Important, yeah,
fairly important things,
exactly. Oh well, I will, because I thought of trying to add a new layer to my HRT prescription with my GP, who isn't always very keen on me having any. I'm just like, I don't know how that will go down.
What patch strength are you on?
100 maybe, or maybe it's 50, I can't remember. I rustle.
Yeah,
that's why I wear trousers like this that do rustle, because then if I rustle, people are like, it must be her trousers. If I'm wearing something linen, it looks a bit odder when I rustle.
Can you really you can hear
sometimes you can hear them, but rustle, they're really, and in hot weather, those ones, they're horrible. It's like someone's had a go with a Pritt stick on your bum. It's not nice.
You can. I mean, there are other products. There's gels and sprays. If you don't want to rustle, there are things.
I'd like not to rustle. Call me old-fashioned. Well, I mean, I am old-fashioned. I rustle like a crinoline with my blooming HRT. Yeah.
But there are things that you can try.
Yeah.
But the patches are great for estrogen delivery. And what we don't want to do is, if you're otherwise feeling okay, is reduce your dose and give you symptoms, in other words.
Because I do have the gels sometimes. So I do have the estrogen gel, whatever, Sandrina gel I have sometimes as a sort of backup, more if I don't want to have a great massive crinkly patch on my bum for any reason, which is occasionally the case. So I do have that, but I don't use the Sandrina. And I think it does seem to work as well for me. But again, having to put, and it's quite a lot of it you need to put on. And it's just another thing on top of life that's quite busy.
It's all a bit of a hassle.
Yeah. So the sleep, I think, is my biggest ongoing struggle. And then I sometimes think the reason I have brain fog is just because I'm sleep deprived. And I've always been such a believer in maintaining my 8 hours a night sleep, even with young children. I was big on sleep training so that we all got sleep. So it's very ironic that I am now, the custodian of sleeplessness.
Can you wake up later? Can you get up at kind of 8?
But I don't, because I wake up early. That's the problem.
And you don't go back to sleep?
I don't go back to sleep. And quite often, the nature of my job is, say, things like today, we're obviously recording in the morning. I do quite often have morning engagements. But even on the days I could sleep, I just can't. I just wake up.
I wonder whether progesterone might just help.
Okay.
And yeah, it would have been interesting to see what would have happened if you'd just taken progesterone like all those years ago.
Yeah.
But it's
never really come up apart from the mirena. So there we are. Well, that's an eye-opening moment. It's blown my brain fog brain.
It's different. It's different for everyone.
We've got some questions for you. Are you ready? Would you like to help? You do help. I think dogs should be on prescription. Can you sort that out?
Oh, yeah.
So I was about to apologise for my followers, because we're a batshit crazy tribe of women, me and my followers, but these seem quite manageable questions. So here's one.
I hope so.
I'd really like to know how I can identify a good time to start coming off HRT. I never intended to go on it, but wasn't given any alternatives. So the opposite of me, that's someone who wants to come off. I want to stay on.
Oh, interesting. So I mean, you can come off HRT at any time, and it's possible to just stop it. You don't have to wean yourself off it. You may get rebound symptoms if you do suddenly stop. Some women do, some women don't. But if you do stop it and you get rebound symptoms, then you can go back on it and then wean yourself off it slowly. But you can tinker with it, as long as you make sure that you, if you're taking estrogen and you have a womb, that you also take your progesterone.
Okay,
that's
to counter out the womb lining thinning.
Yes.
Brilliant. Next question. I'm on max estradiol, so estrogen patch, and progesterone, and still can't think my way out of a paper bag most days. What else do I need to do to feel better? I reckon that'll be a common question.
So HRT won't always fix everything, and it's important to look at the whole picture. So like we were talking about earlier, there can be huge amounts of life stresses on menopausal women, kind of sandwich generation, work, and it's about thinking, is this all hormones, or is there anything else is there anything else involved? So is there stress? Are you getting enough sleep? Are you getting enough exercise? Are you eating? Are you fueling your machine properly? Because if you view your body like a machine, if you are, and you're not drinking a bottle of wine a night to counterbalance your anxiety, getting up in the morning, having 3 cups of coffee to wake yourself up, getting sugar hits, that kind of thing to kind of make it through the day. So if you are looking after yourself and you still feel like that, are you getting enough estrogen from the patch? Is it worth changing product? Because some women just don't absorb properly, and it's definitely worth thinking about that. That can be a biggie. Like, did you used to get relief, and has that changed? Have your needs changed? And could that be because you've got a dodgy batch of patches that have been left in the car either overnight in the cold or out in the sun, or so there's loads of different things to unpick. Testosterone is a female hormone. It's the guidelines are only to prescribe it for women with a distressingly low libido. But anecdotally, some women have reported that it helps with brain function.
This is a good one. I would like to know more about post-menopause. What can we actually expect? If we stay on HRT or come off or have never been on it, what happens to our physical and mental health? Do we start to feel more normal, less mental?
Often, yes. So often the perimenopause is that time of peak in symptoms, peak in hormonal chaos. And once that, so if you think about what your hormones are doing inside your body, in your kind of perimenopausal reproductive years, they're just doing a really nice cycle, unless you're pregnant or breastfeeding, and it's nice and consistent. And some women even feel that. So if you're somebody that suffers from PMS, then even that can make you feel not very good for certain weeks of the month. But then when you get into perimenopause, your hormones are then all over the place, and it's that chaos that causes the biggest the kind of most extreme symptoms. And then when you are postmenopausal and your ovaries aren't doing anything, that flatlines. So you've got pretty much effectively no hormones. And that can actually be really liberating. You can feel even, there's nothing cycling, there's nothing going on. It's just a kind of an even landscape.
Oh, I'm looking forward to that. 56. I mean, I would be probably more likely postmenopausal now, wouldn't I?
Probably, yeah.
But I wouldn't know because I've been on HRT for so long.
But you won't know. So, but some women continue to experience symptoms. So some women will have hot flushes until their 80s or 90s.
Oh my goodness.
But some don't.
Oh, well, something to look forward to or not. Okay, libido. Any magic tips and tricks to kickstart all that jazz? Or is it true the majority of menopausal women simply go through the motions while thinking of England? Well, I think that's a great final question.
So libido is multifactorial. Like what causes increase or decrease in libido is not just hormonal, but there's also the effects of, if sex is painful, you are going to not want to do it. So there's addressing do you have vaginal dryness or soreness? And then you can easily treat those with things like moisturizers, lubricants, and vaginal estrogen. Have you got a low libido because you're low in estrogen? You can take HRT. Have you got a low libido because you're low in testosterone? You can replace testosterone. Or have you got a low libido because you are working
knackered.
Exactly,
fed up,
and you've been with your partner for 30 years, and they just all they want to do is watch back-to-back EastEnders, and
I feel we're heading into some good stuff here.
There are so many different aspects to it, and I think thinking about unpicking what is it about your sex life that is not working how you want it to be. But also, some women are just not interested in that, and that's also okay. But if you are interested, then there's all of those things to look at.
And is the reason, last little cheeky extra question from me, with the libido thing, it could be constituted as quite sexist, that the reason that the system will give us testosterone if we've got low libidos is also because it helps the men in our lives. I always think that's sort of I know obviously we want libidos and we're not all in relationships with men, so whatever relationship you're in, you would still be given it. But I always think there's a bit of a sort of patriarchal element to that. It's like, oh, you're not wanting to have sex with your husband, have some of this then.
Yeah, in order for you to be
exactly. So I've always worried there might be a bit of an undercurrent.
Well, I think there absolutely is. I mean, I was talking a couple of weeks ago about somebody who was refused testosterone because she was single. And I mean, that's just outrageous. And then went back and I think said, I've got a partner now. It's like, oh, right, you can have testosterone now.
Also, it's the single people that are having all the sex anyway, so don't worry about that. Not the married ones. But the doctor needs to just get out.
I mean, it's crazy.
Yeah,
but changing.
Yeah,
slowly.
I hope so. Yeah.
I think so.
Well, conversations like this will help. Thank you for answering my followers' questions.
Cally, what's coming up next for you?
Well, it's funny you should ask. I don't know how this got here. So, yes, my book, am I allowed to say the title of the book? Yes, so Namaste Motherfuckers, which, as some of your listeners and viewers will know, is my long-standing podcast. I have luckily a hit podcast called Namaste Motherfuckers. I'll stop saying it now, where we have amazing...
I love that
amazing. I think it sums up menopause, doesn't it? Because we're all like trying to find mindfulness, but we're like motherfuckers. So yes, I've had the sort of luck of interviewing, some of the most wonderful sort of people in the world for my podcast, and I decided I'd like to write a book that merged my sort of lessons from the boardroom, what it's like being a comic, all the takeouts from my many years as an executive coach. So every chapter in the book, there are 10 chapters. Every chapter has 3 takeouts, things you can do. You don't have to do them. You don't have to do them in order. You don't have to do all of them. You don't have to do any of them. But they're things that I know from my 2 decades coaching really work across everything from imposter syndrome to reinvention to public speaking. So I thought it'll be the book write the book you'd like to read, they say, don't they? And you know this as someone who's written so successfully. So it's the book I would like to read. So it's about kind of fearless female reinvention at its core, but very much through the lens that I have, which is if I can do it, anyone can do it. It's not a look at me, I've done it, aren't I amazing? It's much more if I can do it, anyone can do it. And even though midlife gives women a real kicking, it's my conviction that there's still also immense opportunity. And if we're willing to kind of take the mess with us, not wait for the day we just feel great, but go, do you know what? There's still stuff I can do here, And again, sorry to be sweary, but we do only have so many fucks left to give, I suspect, in midlife. We have that in common, many of us. So what are we going to do with this next phase in our life? So that is coming out imminently. And I'm also doing a tour across the UK, the Netherlands and Ireland. Same title, and it is part stand-up and part book reading, and also a surprise thing I'll be doing that I've never done before in shows, which I will not say more of until this tour has started. So the dates for all of that are on my website, and I'm going to be doing a couple of nights at the Edinburgh Fringe with the show as a preview, and then I start touring in earnest from September.
Wow.
So that's what I'm doing.
Can I come?
Yes, please come. We'll look at the dates and we'll get you. Yeah, but I'd love you to come. Yes.
That would be, it sounds amazing.
Yeah, bring peanuts. No other humans. No, do bring humans.
That sounds incredible. Thank you for coming all this way today to talk to me. Oh,
thanks for having me. It's been an absolute joy hanging out with you and your beautiful dog.
Thank you. Well, it's been a joy for me too. So I really appreciate it.
Thanks, Naomi. Thanks for having me.
If I didn't manage to answer your question today, or if you have any other questions, then please feel free to follow me on Instagram. I do a lot of educational posts and videos. My handle there is Dr._Naomi Potter, and hopefully you will find the answers to your questions there. Alternatively, on my website, which is menopause-care.co.uk, there is a big information hub, and you should be able to find your answers there as well.